when I was 9, before when I was younger, we would do like envelopes, folding letters and putting them in envelopes for my dad's businesses. And so my dad started us out really young, working and learning to work. We did things like this 2,000 paper route every Sunday or every summer. We would get up at, the newspapers would be delivered about 4. We would get up at 6 once a week, and we would each fold. I have 6 brothers and sisters, so we'd each fold our papers, and my parents would pay us a penny a paper to fold the papers, and then if you were lucky enough, we would throw them into the back of the station wagon. Station wagons were the precursor to Suburbans and SUVs. And then somebody would get in the back of the station wagon, and one of us would sit on the edge of the seat with the the edge of the door with the window rolled down and throw papers. So if you were the lucky one who got to throw the papers that week, you got another penny. And if you got to be in the back and push all the papers forward, you got a half a penny. And then my mom just kept track of how much we earned, and we'd go to the movie or do something. We didn't get the option to do things like go to the movies or go out to eat unless we had earned enough to do that. So that was probably my first experience that I really remember with working. I got a job, or I had a job when I was 12. I was an assistant to a marketing director of a company that was, again, my dad's company. So I'd come home from work or school, and then I'd go to work. And then I'd work into the evening, and when my dad was ready to go home, I'd go home with my dad, and it was usually somewhere around 8 o'clock in the evening. So that's when I learned to work in an office. Then from there, when I was 16, I went to work at Wendy's, and I learned fast food, and I hated it. And I know I never wanted to do that again. And so I went back to an office and went to work. I got married when I was 19, and we moved to Colorado, and I went to work in Colorado and worked for an alarm company. When we moved back to Utah, I came back to work, and I worked again for my dad. My dad was going through a change. He was 50-something years old. My dad graduated from high school but never went to college. So my dad was in management when they sold the company that he was working for, and he was asked to resign because the company that had taken over already had his position covered. At that point, my dad realized that working for someone else, back in that era when he started working, if you worked for a company, your retirement, everything, you stayed with that company your whole life. And if you worked for that company, your retirement was secure. And then he turned 50 and started in management, and then before he was 60, that company sold, and he had to resign. And every place that he went to look for a management position, they hired somebody with a college degree and no experience, instead of hiring him, who he was very well known in the business industry, and he had gone through the school of hard knocks. He could take you through every aspect of a business. He could turn a business from the red, put him back in the black within 2 years. So at that point, my dad decided that he needed to be an entrepreneur. And when he started his business, we all went to work for my dad. That was in 1993. I was pregnant with my second child. And so we started a company called Profit Education Systems. Profit Education Systems was a seminar company. We went all over the country teaching people how to make money on the internet. So we had teams that would go out and make money on the internet. And then I did all of the in-house work for the company. We had a couple of other employees. My mom ran a company that did all the customer service for the company, and actually had third parties that would come in and hire her group to do customer service. In 1996, we took that company public. It was called Galaxy Mall. It was one of the first malls on the internet where people would bring their products, set up a website, and those products would then they'd be able to go online and do all of their pay-per-click advertising and do all of that advertising. All of those strategies we taught in our seminars, and people would pay thousands of dollars to go to these seminars. In 1990, 8, I quit working for my dad to go home and be a full-time mom. At that point, I had my 3rd child, and one of the things I learned was that I needed to go back to work, but I wanted to work from home. And so the decision to work from home was because I felt there was a need for babies with colic. My son, who was my 3rd child, TJ, was a very colicky baby. And I'd heard about a product in Canada that was only sold in Canada called gripe water. So I went to a pharmacist and asked him about this product, and we reverse engineered the product with a lab. And he started, because he was a pharmacist and was a compounding pharmacist, he then would create the product. And we sold it online for many years. Then, because I moved from one place to another, for some odd reason, my URL for my website went down. And it had somehow gotten released. And so somebody picked up my URL, and that was the end of that business. I had lots of customers who would still call me. I still have colic relief formula in my garage. It never goes bad. And when I have a friend who says, oh, my baby's so colicky, I just go to my garage and hand her a bottle, because it's all natural products. At that point, in 1998, my husband was speaking at the seminar on the seminar business, and one of the things that we implemented in our business was that anybody who was speaking or was on the road had to own their own website. And so my husband decided he wanted to do an emergency preparedness website. So we started yourfoodstorage.com. Yourfoodstorage.com was all emergency products: food storage, tents, water storage, grain mills, anything you can think of that we have on that website. So when I came home from work, when I came home from work, he went back to work. He was out doing these seminars, and he did that till about 2004. In 2004, our business got so busy that he came home to run the business with me. So I stayed home from 98 to 2004 and basically ran that business by myself, answering phones, sending out orders, running credit cards. We joint ventured that business with a couple of different warehouses that have emergency preparedness products. So we did everything drop ship. I'd take the phone call, I'd take the order, I'd process the credit card, put the order into the computer, and send it off to the appropriate warehouse, the supplier. One of the things that I really came to love was emergency preparedness. And one of the things I would say to you is, if you're going to own a business, find something you love. Don't do something you don't like, because if you don't like it, it really is work. If you love it, it's something that you will enjoy doing, and it won't be as big of a job. There were times when I would be doing whatever work it was that I had to do, and it would be 11 o'clock at night and the phone would ring. And the person on the other line would say, I can't believe you answered the phone. And I said, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I work from home. I happen to be sitting at my desk. What can I help you with? And people really, really appreciated that. Customer service, I would say, is top priority in a business. If you're not going to do customer service, don't own your own business, because that's it. The worst advertising and the best advertising are word of mouth. Everybody is going to hear if you don't have good customer service. And if you do have good customer service, you'll be lucky if people hear about it, because not hearing anything is better than hearing bad. So let's see. Last year, I went through a divorce, and my ex-husband, who always said that this was his business, and he runs this business, took the business and went with that business to take care of himself, hopefully be able to pay his child support. But because the business is cyclical, which means that it goes around, and there's some times when it's busy and sometimes when it's not, we knew that we had times where we would have to save up for those times when it was not. And so we did that. But we could go on a family vacation, take our phones, plug our phones into the internet, because we had voice over internet phones, and answer the phones no matter where we were. So that was one of the perks that I really liked about that business. I already knew everything in my head. I already had all my prices, everything. I knew what I could do. And so when people called, we were on a cruise a few years ago, and we took a satellite phone so that and we routed our phones to the satellite phone. So there's a lot of freedom in owning your own business. When my ex-husband took that business, I had to figure something else out. All of my family members are entrepreneurs. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and then my parents. My brother owns a real estate company where he goes around and he teaches people how to buy and sell real estate as an investor. And my brother said, come on, I'll teach you the real estate business. So in the last year, I've probably had $40,000 to $50,000 worth of education in the real estate business, just by attending his seminars. Some of you may have gone to one down here at the Marriott this last year, where they presented the opportunity. So what I have done is I've gone out and found properties now where I go and put the property under contract, and then I start looking for a buyer. My buyers are doctors, lawyers, dentists, people who want to take their money and make more interest on it than what you get in the bank with a CD. What is a CD? Does anybody know? Okay. That's what the bank calls it, and we call it a certificate of disappointment, because the interest rate on a certificate of deposit is less than 2%. Inflation is more than 2%. So you've got to find a way to make your money grow that isn't just in the bank and not really growing. The bank then borrows that money from you to make its loans. And so I learned all of these things, and I went out and I started implementing them. My first house, I went out and it was a piece of crap house. It literally needed to be destroyed. I bought it for land value and sold it to somebody who rehabs houses. Had I known what I know now, I never would have sold that house to him for what I sold it to him for. I bought it for $41,000 and I sold it to him for $45,000. And that was in October last year. And just this last month, he sold it for $143,000. He probably made $50,000 to $60,000 on that house. He went in and he totally gutted the inside and remodeled it. My second house was in Springville, and I bought it for $50,000, and within 3 days I sold it for $72,000. So, closing costs and all of that, I probably made $18,000 on that house. I don't love real estate at this point. Real estate is a necessity to take care of my children. But it's okay. And we do what we have to do. I would say that finding something that is necessary and solves a problem for you is also one of the things that will be the best opportunity for you, because you will learn to find ways to make it work, and when you find ways to make it work, you'll make it work in the way that works for you. And when it works for you, then you can be happy with what you're doing. Now I'm at the point where I put a house under contract. I take a contractor into the house with me. We do an inspection. We decide how much it's going to cost us to fix it up. If the numbers work, then we go to work. And we start fixing that house up. I was in Sandy this morning. I was in Bountiful this afternoon. Both of those were not expected trips. So working for yourself, like I said before, plan to work. Work hard and it will work. Do what you love and it will work. I probably haven't spoke long enough. I don't know what more to tell you. The The different businesses that I have done have taught me a lot. I have had an employee, but again, because our business was cyclical, we let her go, and she went and found something else. Then when the economy tanked, we didn't really need her anymore. So you learn all the different aspects of business when you own your own business. You don't have to go to school in every single one of them, and you can ask for help. My sister was in retail, and I asked her for help with my books. I go to my accountant, and he does all of my taxes. I go to the warehouse where we would ship food, and I'd say, I need this, and they would formulate it, and then we'd test it, and we'd see if it was something we liked, and then we'd tweak it and make it better. And so I would expect to find people who have knowledge that you don't have and use those people. One of the best things I did with my real estate business is I found an agent who was used to working with investors. And she knows the market that I don't know. She knows things that I don't know. She knows areas. You would think you go into any area and you put carpet and paint and cut the lawn and you're good to go. Well, some areas you are. Other areas you have to go into more depth and you have to do more things. Find experts. Find people who are smarter than you and allow them to help you. That would probably be one of the top things that I would suggest, because there are people out there who can help you with things you don't know and you don't understand. And don't be embarrassed to ask for help, because everybody has their expertise in different things. And as you go forward and as you learn and as you grow with your business, you will find that you will be able to do some of those things down the road. But it just starts with a need and fulfilling that need. And if you fulfill your needs, then you're going to be on your way. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm sure we got tons of questions. Will you tell a little bit about, like, you started with your internet business when a lot of people didn't even know what the internet was, and or they didn't have a computer, they didn't have access. So tell me, like, how it's changed from the time you first started marketing an internet business, how you marketed it, and how it's kind of evolved over the years to what you did most recently.
Okay, so when we first started marketing our internet business, internet marketing was free. There was no such thing as pay-per-click. Yahoo did all of the marketing for you. You set up your page, you put in your keywords, you put in everything, your meta tags, all of that, and Google would just, or Yahoo was the big one then, would just pick them up and put you into their search engines. Then pay-per-click came along, and then we started doing advertisements in magazines. We would do advertisements in emergency preparedness magazines. We did advertising in LDS Living. Then eventually we started doing referrals. So when somebody would call us and order from us, based on the size of their order, we would do a referral fee if they had somebody who would place an order with us, and they would say, oh, Kim called me and gave me your website, and I ordered because Kim ordered from you. Then we would fulfill those orders with food, those referral fees. We would send them a case of soup or something of their choice that would equal that value. And then word of mouth just kind of went wild for our business. We were the very first emergency preparedness company online, and everybody kind of copied our websites. And eventually, we moved to having somebody in marketing do our marketing for us. So he would do blogs and what's the other? He would do the advertising, banner advertising, all of those things on other websites. So we weren't just doing pay-per-click. We were doing advertising on other people's websites. We were advertising on blogs. We were writing our own blogs. We had, what's that person who goes out and puts ads on other people's websites and blogs for you, or testimonials on other people's websites and blogs for you. All of those kinds of things were going on with our business. And Joe was the one, he was my marketing guy, who did all of that for us. He also did the majority of our website changes for us. I was too busy, and my ex-husband didn't know how and wasn't really interested in learning. So that business at this point is not doing very much because he's not doing very much with it. If you're going to work your own business, you have to work your own business. You cannot just expect it. Even after, let's see, it's been 16 years, 2013, yeah, about 15, 16 years since we started that website. It doesn't feed itself. It doesn't do itself. Yahoo and Google picked up a lot of things, and they do keep you in their search engines, but they do not keep your content fresh. They do not keep you in the top in their searches unless you are adding and actually working the business and making things happen and change in your business. The one thing that we found that Google really, really wants to see is the fresh content. They want things changing. They want to see a different look. They want to see that you are working your business. You will want to stay within the first 6 is what we found on Google. The first 6 searches most people will look at. They will look at the very bottom search on the bottom of the page, and they will look at the top searches on subsequent pages. But they will not continue to go down after about the first 6. So you need to keep if you're going to do an internet page or a store, you need to keep your searches, so you got to keep yourself up in those top 6 or the very bottom one. And the very bottom one is hard to catch because it changes so much. So, and the other thing, I guess the other thing that we found is that when you do pay-per-click, you got to make sure that your budget for your pay-per-click is kept. Otherwise, it will eat you alive. And I have on my website, it calculates it for me every day what I can and can't spend on pay-per-click. So, yes? Okay, so pay-per-click is where you go into Google or one of the other website engines and you sign up for their pay-per-click service. That means that when somebody clicks on your link from their website, they're going to charge you the amount that you offered to bid on that click. So if it's 5 cents a click or 10 cents a click, they're going to wind up those charges, and you have to have a credit card in your account with Google or Yahoo or whoever for them to charge. And different engines do it at different rates. I think Google does it at $250. So every $250 that you spend, they charge your card again for the next $250. So, does that explain it? One of the things that I have noticed is that as we have grown through in society and things have gotten easier and easier, we've gotten lazier and lazier. We're not willing to do the work. So I would say that the best thing for you to do is actually get out there and work. Be dedicated. And when you have children, start them young. There's not a lot of people who know how to work. And so you just, in my mind, because I have 6 children, I'm dealing with a lot of the same things, trying to teach my children to work. And they don't want to work. It's a lot easier to sit in front of the TV or the computer or the iPod or the iPad or whatever and push a button and play games. So get out there and apply yourself. Find something you love and actually do the work. because otherwise you won't be successful. There's a lot of businesses started every day and every year, and only 5% of the businesses, I think is the statistic, something like that, make it through the first 5 years. So find something you love, solve a problem for somebody, and you'll find success. Because if one person has that problem, I'll guarantee you there's a whole mass community that do. So.
You talked about how you might maybe put your kids to work in your business. Like,
oh, yeah.
How did you?
Oh, they hate that. So we would put together catalogs for our business, and my children would learn how to print the catalogs out. They learned how to put samples in bags. They learned how to put labels on bags and put the samples in the bags, and then put all the pieces into an envelope so that when somebody called and said, can we have a sample, we would just put a label on it and ship it out. We also have done things like taking them into the warehouse and teaching them how to use the canner. Or we actually brought a canner to our house that we borrowed from, where's the LDS? What's the LDS place? The cannery. Yeah, it's something to do with the cannery. We taught our children how to use a manual canner in the beginning of our business. They just do all the little odd jobs. One of the things I started my oldest daughter doing was typing the orders into the computer, where they started to learn to type. Some of my children don't want to have anything to do with the business, and they balk and complain. And so we would kind of try and get creative and say, okay, for family night, we're going to put catalogs together. And after that, we'll go get ice cream. Those are kind of things that we have done trying to help our children start to learn to realize that it takes work to work a business. And I have a 16-year-old now who's decided that he wants to be an entrepreneur. Well, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, start thinking about it now. Start thinking about that problem that you're going to solve for somebody and start working on that in your head now. I think the sooner that you can start working on the problem or working on what it is you want to do or accomplish, the more successful you're going to be when you actually implement that. I never had a business plan. I think a business plan is a great idea. I never had any outside money. So we started our business on a shoestring budget. We started with, I think, $100 in our pay-per-click account. Because the company that I worked for actually did the programming of the website, so we didn't have to pay to have our website programmed. Until just recently, we didn't even have to pay for our hosting. Recently, that company that we took public in 1996, my dad retired, I think, in 2004 or 5. As president of that company. That company was just recently taken over by a fellow who was a communications guy, has communications companies, and he's basically destroying the company that we worked so hard to build. So those kinds of things happen. And just like my divorce where I had to start over, those kinds of things happen. You just find the next thing that will work for you and move forward. Don't get stuck back in the traps of, oh, well, how come I can't do this again, or why doesn't this work anymore? Keep moving forward. Find the fresh ideas and move forward with those. Yeah?
Do you have any new ideas for things you want to start in your future?
I don't. Right now, my main concern is taking care of my kids. My children range from the age of 21 to 8, and so I've kind of had to just reinvent myself with this real estate idea. My newest thing that I'm doing is I'm buying the house, and I'm not just flipping it to a buyer. I'm not just making $5,000 on that house to have somebody else fix it up. I'm going in, I'm taking my ideas, the things that I've seen and I like, putting them into the house, and then actually putting it back on the market to an end buyer. So I have 2 of those right now. that I'm working on. And I have 7 properties on my whiteboard in my office. I'd like to open up in Texas. I have properties in Arizona that I'm working on. I've had properties in Nevada. Right now I have a 13 duplex project that I'm just completing in Indianapolis. And I already have a buyer for them. We've taken those duplexes from sticks. Basically, we went in, we took them all the way down to the framing and built them back up. So they're brand new properties. The most expensive one we bought was about $15,000. And so now we're going to sell them for about $85,000. The costs to put them back up together, the most expensive one I think is about $57,000. The last thing that I have to do with those is what's called the quiet title proceeding. Because we bought those properties at auction, the titles aren't clear on those properties. So we had to go to an attorney. And then we have an attorney in Indianapolis who is going and clearing all the liens off those properties. And then they'll be ready to sell. So my brother's company, who goes out and teaches these things, he makes properties available to the people who go to his seminars if they want to buy properties. And those properties are all promised to some of those customers. So that project is going to end up costing us pretty close to $700,000. But in the long run, we'll make that back easy. So.
What's your view of the real estate market? Is it coming back? Is it harder to find
it is
out there?
It is coming back.
What will you do when it gets strong? Will you still have an opportunity, or will you do something else?
The opportunity that we started with was because of all the foreclosures, you could go to a bank, and the bank would sell you the properties that they had foreclosed on based on how much was left on the note and how much they were willing to lose. And unfortunately, they were, depending on the time of the year, depending on how long they'd been holding onto the property, depending on what that property was doing, what needed to happen to that property, they would, release that property to you for X amount of dollars. My property in Springville that I bought for $50,000, because I had cash to buy that property, they gave it to me for $50,000. They had offers on that property for over $70,000, but they were finance properties, finance loans, people who had to get loans, and they didn't want to wait. It was coming into winter. When it comes into winter, a vacant house has to be winterized to avoid pipes from bursting. So it's kind of a time and a place kind of thing. The banks are all recovering at this point. And here in Utah, Orem and Provo are the fastest growing cities in the United States right now. So our real estate has gone up 11% in the last quarter. So it's getting harder. It's getting much harder. Places like Detroit, you can still get properties for $5,000. Yeah, very, very cheap. This gentleman says $200. However, the taxes on that $200 property are not $200. The property taxes alone on that property are probably going to run you $1,500 to $2,500 a year. So a lot of people go into these areas where they see these great properties and buy these properties for $200, $600, $5,000, but they don't realize that the back half is burned down, or it needs all of this improvement, but they're still responsible for the taxes to the county or to the township or whatever. So if you're going to go buy a property, make sure you know what it is you're buying, because the county will come and take your property away, and you'll still be responsible for those taxes. So, but I've got, like I said, had a property in Nevada. I've got 2 right now in Arizona. I've got 5 right here in Utah, and then I really would like to open up Texas. So I'm trying to find somebody out in Texas I can trust. You've got to find people you can trust, people that you know you can count on. You got to have a team, a contractor who can go in and look at a property and say, okay, this is what you've got to do. I was in Bountiful this morning. I've looked at this property probably 4 times now. I have it under contract. I've had 2 contractors up there, and they've both told me some of the same things, but some different things. Today I learned I might have lead pipes in that property. Well, that could be a problem. So maybe I don't really want that property. You go into a property who hasn't had wiring done since 1930. You got to fix the wiring, but somebody's got to tell you that if you don't know that. I don't know those things. So, like I said, find somebody who is smarter than you to help you out, because otherwise it'll cost you some money. So, I saw another hand. Anybody?
Do you feel like your real estate business is more rewarding for you now than a necessity? Now that you've kind of gotten to a point where you can make the properties the way you envision them instead of just what's the minimum to resell it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of. It's a little bit scary because I don't really trust myself in that way yet. I haven't actually sold a property yet with my ideas in it. One isn't quite ready yet. The one in Orem that I have be ready in about 6 weeks, because we just gutted the whole thing and we're basically starting over on the inside. We've got to move walls and change things around. So it's a little scary, but that's okay. It'll work out. The great thing about real estate is that one deal can fix everything if you've got the numbers. So
does that give you a little bit more opportunity? Like when you're talking about the food storage business and having to have a satellite phone on a cruise, like you can never be away from the business.
Yeah.
Does real estate give you a little bit more flexibility where you can take time off occasionally?
Yeah, it does. I don't own any of my own properties yet that I have held on to rent. My long-term goal is to own enough properties that I don't have to work anymore. But I'm not there yet. I've only been doing this for about a year. I don't plan to manage any of those properties. I plan to have a property manager. A property manager typically makes about 1% or $100 on a property per month. So if I have rental out there for $600 a month, I'm paying my property manager $100 a month. I don't plan to buy any property without paying cash for it. I do not want a mortgage on it. So that means I take home $500 a month, and I don't do anything for it the rest of the month. You do have to plan for vacancies. You have to plan for repairs. So yes, I have $500, but $50 every month will go to repairs and savings, and $50 towards vacancies. Then at the end of the year, I can plan on whatever those repairs need to be, whatever the vacancy rate is, and adjust as I need to. So positive cash flow is the name of the game. So, okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank Kirstyn for coming.